Okay, so now I'm going to try to do this the same way I did this morning when I was sitting in Digital Logic 2 so that I don't make any mistakes. All right. So here I need to obtain an expression for the voltage gain. Notice there's no numbers here. So what your job here is say, here is an op amp. You tell me what the gain is for this. So that's what we're going to do. And it's not pretty. I'm just warning you that ahead of time. So I'm going to write down what we know about ideal op amps. We know that IN equals IP equals 0. We also know that VN equals VP. And that's what we know. So we know some other stuff about the inside of the op amp, but that's not going to help us figure out the voltage gain. Now, since IP equals 0, when you look at this part right here, if there's no current flowing there, then VP has to equal VS because there's no current. The reason I wanted to do that is I'm trying to get, my goal is to get the gain in terms of V out. I'm trying to get V out over VS because that's the definition of gain. V out over VS is the definition of gain. And so I would like to find some way to relate those two things. Now I'm going to look at, so this V out prime right here. So this is V out. V out prime is what's actually coming right out of the op amp. And I know if I look at this branch right here, I can see that V out, I can use voltage division, that from ground to V out prime, the voltage changes V out prime, and V out is in the middle in between the two resistors. So V out equals V out prime times RL over RL plus R3. Now I can look at let's see, so okay, so now let's think about this current right here, that current. So IN is 0, and so my current flowing through R1, all of that current has to also flow through R2 because IN is 0. So the current through R1 is 0 minus VN over R1 because this is 0. There's voltage there minus the voltage of the other side divided by the resistance. That has to equal the current from VN to VO prime. So that has to equal VN minus V out prime over R2. We know VN equals VP, and we know VP equals VS. So I can write this as minus VS over R1 equals VS minus V out prime over R2. Now, if I look at, oh, I had V out right here, yeah. Okay, so I know V out prime equals RL plus R3 over RL times V out. So I'm just solving for V out prime right here. So now I can say minus Vs over R1 equals Vs minus RL plus R3 over RL times V out all over R2. And then, let's see, I will, I said I was going to do it the same way I did here, and of course I didn't. Let me go back and do what I did here just to make it a little prettier. Minus Vs, I'm right here. I'm just making it a little prettier before I plug in. Minus Vs R2 equals R1 times Vs minus V out prime. And then now it's looks nicer. Equals R1 times Vs minus V out prime is RL plus R3 over RL times V out. Okay, now remember what I'm looking for is V out over Vs. So I'm now going to divide everything by Vs. So I'll divide by Vs, divide by Vs. And so I get minus R2 equals R1, and I'll just bring that divide by Vs inside here. 1 minus RL plus R3 over RL times V out over Vs. And this is the thing I'm trying to solve for. So I'm almost there. So now if I distribute this R1, so minus R2 equals R1 minus R1 over RL times RL plus R3 times V out over Vs. I can subtract R1 from both sides. Minus R1 minus R2 equals minus R1 over RL times RL plus R3 times V out over Vs. And then multiply through by -1 and divide by this business over here. And I get R1 plus R2 over RL plus R3 times RL over R1 equals V out over Vs. Any chance that's what I have here? Holy cow, I think it is. It is. Wow. Okay, so that was a whole lot of algebra. And so I told you it wouldn't be pretty, and it's not. But that's what the gain of this op amp is. So if you had the values of R1, R2, R3, and RL, then you could say that's what the gain is based on your input voltage.
Is there an easier, simpler way of doing that, or okay, that's funny.
Now, it will seem easier when it's numbers because you're not necessarily solving, you don't have to keep track of everything
Right.
all along. Yes?
Why is the compound not V prime? V output prime, V output,
Because that's what the problem asked for. So it said, given this circuit, this is V out, and this is Vs. Find a relationship between V out and Vs.
Oh, it just says that, it's just saying that change is V out. Not Vs. That's not actually how you get change.
Okay, so we were finding, so that's how gain is defined. So I said, I gave you that V out equals the gain times V source. So what is the gain? The gain is V out over Vs.
No, I was just wondering if that's like, if gain wasn't given, Yeah, I was wondering if that was the equation for gain like, in general.
Yes,
Like, not for this problem, but.
yes. I mean, it's right here. That's what gain is.
Oh. Wait, then why is it not V out prime? Because that's what's coming out of the amp, right?
Because that's not how this op amp is defined. So yes, you are right. In general, you're saying but V out is the output of this device. And so whoever gave you this device, it's just saying this is V out right here. That's V out. And so V out is whatever they tell you V out is, and if they're not saying yes, it is the output. So your question is, why is this not the output? Well, it is the output for this part of it,
Okay, but that's not the whole thing.
but it's just not how this particular one was defined for you. So, okay, but I get what you're saying, but yeah. Other questions?